Welcome to this podcast is making me thirsty, the number one destination for Seinfeld fans. This is episode 128. Today, we welcome back a very special guest. He's been with us on twice before. He's a stand-up comedian. He's a regular on SiriusXM, hosting the Raw Report. Exec produced Come to Papa with Tom Papa, the Carlin Show. He's a regular on the Bonfire. You can find his podcast, Defend Your Movie podcast. They're up there too as well. His new special, Check Right, is available this Thursday, October 6th on his YouTube channel. We'll have the link in our description. Please welcome Andy Fiori. Andy, thanks for joining.
Wow. Thanks for having me, boys. Good to see you. Good to be back on the pod. I'm excited to talk some Sign.
Yeah, welcome back. I mean, you're part of the Three Timers Club. It's
all right.
It's very, very rare. You're the only one, episode 31. This is episode now 128. So
I'm honored. Yeah,
I mean, last time we saw you, we had the greatest lines bracket.
Yeah, the March Madness, baby.
Have you heard from Morgan Emily Reed since?
I have not.
Either have we. She disappeared. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, the restraining order kicked in pretty quickly.
So what have you been up to? Tell us a little bit about the special coming out. We'd love to get a sneak peek of that, or what we should expect coming up.
Yeah. You can go to follow all my socials at Andy Fiori for some clips coming up there. It comes out October 6th. It's on my YouTube page, youtube.com/Andrew Fiori. And it's called Check Right. It's dedicated to my dad, who passed away a few years ago at 96. And there's a couple bits in there about him, but we filmed it in March at New York Comedy Club in the East Village. And man, I'm really excited for everybody to see it. If you like it, tell a friend and spread this thing around. I haven't put anything into my YouTube page because I was like, this will never become a thing. And then it's just like, that's the new medium nowadays. So I'm happy to have people go and just check it out, and hopefully you like it. But I'm really excited for it. I'm very proud of it. And it looks really cool. We got some cool Easter egg things we did in the credits. So yeah, man, I'm looking forward to it.
Very cool. Yeah, that's awesome, man. We're looking forward to it too. And your dad, 96, huh? That's incredible. Me and Chris both lost our dads pretty recently as well. So
I'm sorry, man.
It's one of those things. So that's great you were able to get it out for him.
Dedicated to him, and it's called Check Right after him. He used to, we were talking a little bit beforehand about Sports Channel and growing up near Giant Stadium. My dad, ever since I was a little kid, would do this thing where when he was driving, if you were sitting in the front seat, if you were sitting shotgun, my dad would come up to an intersection. He'd look left and he'd go, check right. And like, that was now your cue to look for traffic on the right side of the world, which is bananas to have like an 8-year-old kid do that. And wow. So, there's a whole bigger bit in the special about that. I don't want to spoil it, but it's just, that's the old man behavior. That's that generation just going, you got it. You know
right, I mean? Man. Exactly. Yeah. My dad used the steering wheel as a drum set, so I know what you mean.
Absolutely. Oh, I'm a big drummer. I'm a big steering wheel drummer.
Yeah, you're bringing back memories. We went up to my sister's graduation up in Providence, and my older brother had to be 35 at the time, but my father's in the right seat. And my brother might have been going a little fast, and he's yelling, get in the right lane, similar to check right.
Right.
My brother's like, what? And then my father just goes, I'm not paying for this ticket. Like you would have to pay for the ticket. But speaking of dads, I mean, and we lost 2 of the Seinfeld dads this year, Morty and Frank, right? I mean, it's, fathers, they mean a lot, not just us, but even in the Seinfeld, right?
Of course.
I mean, so were you, I'm guessing the answer is good. Actually, what's interesting about both of those guys is they were both replaced, right?
Yes.
There was an original Morty and an original Frank.
Right. Not a lot of people know that about Frank because they covered it up, right? They went back and like re-edited that dude out, whoever the original.
Yeah. The original was the guy from Lampoon Christmas Vacation. What was his face?
Right.
Randolph? Is that
right?
Randolph?
Randolph,
yeah. First Morty made a few episodes, and then was Barney what's his last name?
Martin.
Barney Martin, yeah. And then you look back and you go, the right call for each one. I mean, they're just irreplaceable at this point. I mean, obviously we love Frank Costanza, but Barney Martin was so great too. He had some great lines, you know.
My wallet's gone.
Yeah, my wallet's gone.
Right.
I'll make some phone calls.
So it's funny. Another replacement character that we've spoken to both of them now. The original Lloyd Braun and the new Lloyd Braun.
Yeah.
Curious your take. Are you actually? I think I know the answer because it still might be your favorite episode. But you original Lloyd Braun guy or Lloyd Braun 2?
I'm an OG. I love original Lloyd. He's so cocky and he's swarmy. And just, like swarthy. He plays that like George nemesis so well, you know. I'm always disappointed when I see like the later season Lloyd, because it's like it just doesn't add up to me. You know what I mean? It was such a great one-time character. You know, people are going to remember this is not the original Lloyd.
But America and Twitter, they think that's the real Lloyd.
No, come on, Twitter. We're getting too old.
But no, seriously. I mean, the first Lloyd, like you mentioned, is like the opposite of George. That's what he was supposed to be, right?
Yeah.
His mom, that Lloyd Braun, and then he was always comes in and just gets a lane, right? Picks a lane up in like a second in the shop. I mean, we just lost to Stell Harris too, I think recently, right? Yeah.
Man, the Costanzas got knocked out real quick.
And Liz Sheridan.
That's right.
Yeah,
holy shit,
too.
That's true. I can't pull out both sets of parents.
Yeah, it's sad.
Very sad. Great casting though.
Yeah.
So speaking of, we have a new segment on the show. I know you prepared for this.
I'm ready, baby.
2 up, 2 down. Obviously, we're all big Seinfeld fans here, so this is it's kind of a challenge, right? 2 ups are kind of easy, but the 2 downs on a favorite episode are tough. Well, actually, and vice versa. Even on bad episodes, the ups are tough. So let's kick this off. We're going to start with. I still think it's your favorite episode of all time, the non-fat yogurt. Is that true?
My favorite ep. This is my number 1.
All right.
Okay.
So this is gonna be tough for you to be critical of your favorite episode.
It is.
2 downs in there.
But we're gonna lead off with my partner here on his first 1-up for the non-fat yogurt.
Okay, I hope I'm not stealing one here because I know it's your favorite episode. I have a few written down. I was going to hope.
Me too.
I don't want to repeat. We try not to repeat. Sometimes you kind of have to. If it's
That's okay. It's a great episode.
Yeah, exactly. I think my first up. My first up is going to be George in the doctor's office. I love George when he's behind the desk. I love George when he has to kind of talk his way out of something, when he has to lie. Always my favorite Costanza, when he's doing the elbow thing. And then the doctor's like, I find nothing wrong with you. George is a bit of a mystery. No, I don't think it is. I think you're faking it. George has to be like, yeah, Brad.
A very sick person.
Yeah, exactly. A very sick person. A person has no regard for anyone else's time, And George is like, okay, good point. Like he makes those faces like, I guess he's got a point. So that's my first up is Costanza with the doctor.
That one's that one's so great too, Chris, because you have George, his whole life is a lie, admittedly so.
Right.
And Elaine actually even challenges him. She goes, "Oh, you're gonna do this? Not even you can keep that up." And Jerry goes, "Oh, I believe he can."
This is nothing.
And then, it turns real. But it's so funny how the doctor actually calls him out. And then it actually hurts. He hurts himself. Yeah, that's a great one. But Fiori, not on my list.
All right, Fiori, your first 1-up for this episode.
So, just first of all, I think the first 1-up is it's such a great 4-person episode, meaning that everybody really has a story in this episode. You have Jerry and Elaine, obviously, with the non-fat yogurt, but you also have Jerry and the cursing. And then you have Elaine and Lloyd dating Lloyd Braun. And then what we just had, you have George and his whole elbow. And then you also have Kramer being invested in a business and it works against Kramer. But then you also have Kramer dating the scientist. Like, it's got a whole lot of, everybody is really busy in this episode. And you've got the Costanzas in the episode. So, that's a thumbs up for me, is just having the whole Seinfeld world really, really involved, because there's some episodes where we're we haven't really heard from Elaine a lot, or we haven't really seen Kramer too much. There's a whole lot of everybody in this episode.
Yeah, it's a good point. I mean, Kramer getting it on with the Bunsen burner, it's forever, etched in my head. All right, Tony, your next 1-up for non-fat yogurt.
I love that up too, because it's kind of like it covers everything, right? It's
Newman
overall,
too. I forgot Newman.
Yeah,
Newman loves it.
Yep, exactly. You have a Newman in there who elevates it. Then you have, like you said, like the Frank and Estelle that elevates it. So I love that up. It kind of leads me to my up. Again, I'm not even using probably my favorite part of the episode as an up here because I kind of just want to dig a little deeper. But my next,
I have so many more ups.
There's a whole list, right? My next up though is to your point, the Frank and Estelle when Lloyd first comes over and it's really Frank, just the way Frank is like, the mayor's talking about George, like the mayor's discussing George, and like the mayor's talking about George. You got to go see the mayor, the mayor's doctor, and that whole like communication between Frank, Estelle, and Lloyd, and then George just being there, just being like, he just overshadowed by Lloyd in front of his parents. It's just so much. Yeah, it's just so much right there going on. That's my second thumbs up.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's another great point about the episode is we all know Seinfeld is famous for tying plots together at the end. This one is like interwoven throughout the whole episode. It's really, everything is married to each other, which is just so impressive writing wise,
Yeah, and again, this is season 5, right? I mean, it's
banging on all cylinders. It's
the pinnacle. As I've said many times, they could end on season 5. I would have been happy. All right, next one up, Fiori.
Well, I want to just jump a little bit off. The Costanzas are so great in this episode too, because you've got the whole name tag fiasco and how Frank thinks it's a great idea. He goes, "I think the city would be a lot friendlier." He goes, "How you doing, Sam? Hello, Joe." And it is anytime you get Frank's arms moving, it's just a recipe for hilarity. It's so funny. But I think my next thumb up is it's one of my all-time favorite lines in Seinfeld, and it's one of my all-time favorite acted bits is when they're in the non-fat yogurt store and Kramer and Jerry and Elaine are there, and they see Newman, and Newman's so excited about the non-fat. He's been waiting for something like this his whole life, and he's sitting there with all the other mailmen, and he's just, that's his scene. So he's ruling the whole roost. He just just another round of strawberry for me and my friends is just one of my favorite things in Seinfeld.
Yeah, that's a great line. I think your girl Morgan, Emily Reed, I think knocked that out of the bracket.
I know,
if I recall.
She's not a fan.
So listen, this is your top episode. We have it as clearly, I think, a top 10 of all time. Great episode. So downs are going to be tough, but let's start with Tony again. You're one down for
I'm very intrigued.
Yeah, I mean, I was racking my brain a little bit on this one. I got to be honest. As we just mentioned, this is definitely a favorite episode. But we got to be nitpicky. That's what we say when we do downs. We got to nitpick a little bit here and there. You know what? This is, man, I've been going back and forth what I was going to say. I'm going to go on the down here. I'm going to go with the final ending scene, sort of. It's Giuliani at the end being like, we're going to investigate the non-fat yogurt, his cholesterol. It's a play off of, Kramer knocking the blood or whatever with the woman in the Bunsen burner. It doesn't play that well to me. It's the end of a show. It's a throwaway. It's kind of like, let's do something with it, tie it all together. But to me, it borders on that absurdity that I don't love in the later seasons of Seinfeld. Mm-hmm. So I'm just gonna go that little bit of like Giuliani, we're gonna investigate this non-fat yogurt or whatever. It's not bad per se, but if I gotta find a down, that's gonna be my down.
Yeah.
All right. How about you, Andy?
Well, that kind of leapfrogs perfectly into mine, because the only really nitpicky thing I could find was that why is Kramer on a date with the scientist at the lab? Why would you go to her place of work for a date? That's the only thing that doesn't make sense to me. If you're taking out a site, you don't bring her to her lab as part of the date. That doesn't make sense to me whatsoever. And I know that's, sets up the whole blood confusion thing. But if you think about it, you would never just go to somebody's office on a date, That's my thumbs down.
All right. My only thought there, it's a good point, is maybe he was picking her up. She was working a little late, and he stepped in for a little, why not at the workplace? But
all right, I'll take that.
But either way, it's a fair down. Tony, you're next down.
Yeah, I do like that down, actually. this is kind of, again, we're nitpicking here on this. I'm gonna say the Elaine gains weight and Lloyd doesn't want to call her anymore from the non-fat yogurt. I mean, first of all, I mean, it's not noticeable. Obviously, Elaine still looks good, right? Is she gaining that much weight that fast? How much yogurt is she actually eating? I get the joke a couple of times where Kramer calls Jerry, you know, what he says, like tubby or something like that. And it's like, yeah, I get it. But then it's like Elaine now is also gaining the weight and Lloyd's not going to talk to her because of that. Very small nitpick on a down there. Just that Elaine probably wouldn't be, you know, putting on that many pounds from a few yogurts. But I mean, come on, it's funny, but I gotta get it down in. Yeah,
Lloyd's face there always.
Yeah, Lloyd's face is great. He puts his arm around her.
It's funny. Yeah.
That's kind of my other down. I really stretched for a second thumbs down in this episode. But when Elaine, she goes, I sat on a chair in his apartment and it broke. And it goes, she's so small. You go, I don't buy that one happening again. But it gives us so many great lines. He goes, well, you're a lot of woman, aren't you? You know, like, I just don't buy. Like pea-sized Elaine, who, yeah, you're right, Tony. They don't ever look fat in the whole episode,
right? Despite
like them wearing the baggy clothes but it does lead to so much funny stuff, like Kramer calling Jerry a different like name for fat every time. You know, listen, Chubbs, I got a 90 in biology. It just gets Jerry so mad. You know, you call me Chabs one more time, you're gonna be walking home.
That's right. That's a good Jerry line.
So, like I said, Chris, this one was so hard to find one, let alone two thumbs down. But that was all. That was what I got.
Yeah, classic episode and so many memorable lines. Everything you guys mentioned to, you know, the molecules in the car, that whole bit, fun stuff. So again, non-fat yogurt, tough one to criticize, but let's give the non-fat yogurt an overall grade.
Tony. Okay. All right. So we didn't even bring up my favorite line of this episode, which is "What the fuck you doing, you piece of shit?" When the kid rolled out the tape, right? I mean, that is an all-time classic Jerry line. As Andy mentioned earlier, this episode has all four characters on firing in all four cylinders. Plus, it's got Newman. Plus, it's got the Costanzas. This is an A. This is what you call an A episode. I wouldn't go lower. I wouldn't even argue higher. I think, you know, anything lower than an A minus, I'd have probably an issue with. I'm going to solid A. Solid season 5 episode. Non-fat yogurt gets an A.
Give it a 90. You got a 90 in Seinfeld.
Yeah. So A, just so we're clear, A is not an A plus.
94-ish. No, A is not an A plus.
Still B plus. Not my
90
school.
Would be A minus. 90 is an A minus.
Exactly.
I think this is 94, 93, somewhere around there.
Yeah. I'm going A plus. I love it so much. It's my favorite one. I really can't find any faults in it. And like I said, those thumbs downs was me really nitpicking. I really had to think about the date at the lab. You know, I was texting with my girlfriend, who's as big a Seinfeld fan as I am. I was like, I can't think of anything bad about this episode. She was like, the cursing. What about, and then I was like, what about the date? That doesn't really make sense. So A plus in my book.
All right. Listen, that's, you know, we wanted to make you think a little bit.
Yeah.
To be a little critical. So that's
good homework assignment.
Good homework assignment. All right, Tony, let's kick it over to you.
Okay. All right. Yeah. A plus. I was thinking that might be where you're going with it. I think it is. Anything A plus is fair and a non-fat.
I'm an easy A.
All right. So we're doing season 9, Reverse Peephole. All right. Andy, you start us off this time. Your first thumbs up.
My first thumbs up is this one. You know, I think you guys are like me. The season 8 and 9, you know, it gets super cartoony. It gets really absurd. And there's not that there's like bad episodes, but because you could find something good in all of them. But my first thumbs up is I love Joe Mayo's job assignments at the party, you know, and anytime you get a putty, like great one line, you sure thing, Joe Mayo. I love that. It's always very funny. And I love how Kramer doesn't know who Joe Mayo actually is, even though he went in on the gift originally. And it's kind of funny whenever they kind of they kind of admit what they're doing, where Kramer goes, Joe, who's this Joe Mayo? He goes, frankly, he sounds made up. I just love that. So I like the whole Joe Mayo world, and I like his job assignments at the party. You know, keep Jerry away from the music. Don't tap on the aquarium. Elaine has to watch the jackets. I like the one-off Joe Mayo character.
Heck yeah, man. We're huge fans of Joe Mayo. Pat Finn was on our podcast. Hell of a guy, salt of the earth.
Pat Finn, yeah.
Yeah, good guy. Joe Mayo with
the guns.
Yeah. So good thumbs up. O'Hara, what's your first thumbs up?
Yeah, Pat Finn, Marquette guy with Chris Farley. I mean, awesome dude. And I had that on the list as well. You know what? My first one-up is interesting. I like when Newman admits that he's banging Silvio's wife. When he's first in the apartment, and then when he's walking down the street with Kramer, and he's just kind of like, there's not much sleeping going on. I don't know. It was good Newman. I always get a chuckle out of it.
Sure.
And then he climbs the tree, and that gets a little kooky. But kind of him flirting with Silvio's wife, and like just picturing Newman like having an affair with someone in the building always kind of cracks me up. So that's my first number one. Again, on a tough season 9 where, there's not a lot of ups.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah, I mean, Newman gets involved. It kind of brings it up at least a notch here in my book as well. But Andy, second thumbs up.
We just referenced Silvio, the landlord, who it's always been funny to me. I get this it's not a thumbs down, but I just came up with it off the top of my head how Jerry and Kramer have kind of had a few. I guess I can only name, there was Manny and Bruce was their like other landlords, right? So I don't know how the landlord system works in that building, but John Polito plays Silvio, and he's just one of those great character actors. Like, he's like the Coen brothers used him a lot. Yeah. And he plays Frank's brother, and it's always sunny. So I my thumbs up to John Polito. I love that guy. I think he passed away recently too, unfortunately. But that guy is great because he's doing an accent. He's really acting in this role, and just him accusing people of being agitators is so funny to me because you never hear that word. Just agitators and I love the fact that he's so perplexed by the reverse peephole, and he just is so willing to believe that Kramer made up this whole story of Jerry being a fancy boy. And it just makes sense to Silvio. He just goes along. He's like, yes, he is. Look at me. Shower me with kids. Like, he does such a great job. So that's my thumbs up is Silvio.
I love it. I love the shower me with kisses. He's like, moo, 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 moo. Yeah. And Lebowski, you mentioned, you can't forget him in Lebowski. Incredible. Great guy. Yeah, that's a great up. O'Hara, second up.
Yeah, so Fiori, he gets this show. It's all about the guest stars, and he focused on 2 guest stars here because they do shine, and we try to put a spotlight on that on this podcast. But I was wavering between these 2, but I'm going with Kramer hiding in the reverse peephole. So first when he's like kind of like shaving his chest or scratching his chest with the spoon. And then later with Silvio, he's kind of like hiding, and he's like, I see you, Kramer. Like, I know you're there. I don't know. It's like so stupid, but it's kind of funny because just, 10 minutes before Kramer goes, we're not hiding anything here. But
yeah.
And then he kind of hides in the peephole. So going with Kramer hiding in the reverse peephole is my second.
That's a great one.
Nice. Andy, you got a down for this one. Season 9. I'm sure you got 1 or 2 here. Let's hear your first.
I do have a down, but I want to ask you guys, because you guys are I bow down to you and your knowledge. Do you guys know if the reverse peephole plot idea was what came from the writer's room? Was that, Festivus is famously one of the writers, his father actually did that. It was the reverse peephole. Do you guys have ever dug into that? Do you know where the idea came from?
Well, I don't know if I know it was written by Spike Feresten. And,
right.
He's one of the writers we haven't talked to yet, but we're
gotcha.
Working on it. So I'd like to get to the bottom of it. I don't know if O'Hara has more info on that, but I know Spike Feresten uses a lot of his the Soup Nazi was a real thing from him. I know he uses a lot of real stuff, so it's quite possible.
Yeah,
I was curious. Real thing, but I don't know if O'Hara knows more.
Yeah, no, same. Spike's one of the ones we're still waiting on, but hopefully we can get to the bottom of that.
All right, cool. Well, here's my thumbs down. My first one is that I never understood from the first time I saw this episode why Elaine would mistakenly throw out Joe Mayo's coat. So we know Joe Mayo has the same coat as Putty, the fur coat, but Elaine is put in charge of the coats. But, you know, you guys go to a house party, those coats are put on the bed. Joe Mayo's own coat wouldn't be on his own bed. It would be in his closet, right? You don't put, that's where guests' coats go, on your bed. So either Putty went into the closet to get his coat and took Joe Mayo's, or that's just always been a plot hole that's irked me, because Elaine threw one out onto the tree famously, and it just doesn't make sense in my head. That's my thumbs down.
Yeah, and I would add to that, I don't like Elaine's whole like explaining that situation to Jerry, and then he's like, "But you threw out the window." Yeah, but I shouldn't have to get that whole thing there. I don't like what she talks about the whole coat out the window either. Yeah. So,
Tony, I'm doing the one downs.
All right.
Because that's my one down.
Is it really? Wow, how about that?
You guys are on the same page. Look at you, got chemistry.
Yeah. That's crazy. Anyway. But yeah, actually, I did rewatch it, Andy, and like, yeah, you're right. I think his coat Joe Mayo's coat was on the bed, and then you saw the two of them. But yeah, that's a great point. Why would he have his coat on the bed?
Yeah. It's so funny too, because that always brought me back to like when your parents would have a dinner party, and like I used to have that job, and you'd be like, "Where do I put?" They go, "Just put him on our bed," and then and so that always rang true with me. I'd be like, "Well, my parents' coats weren't on their own bed."
Yeah.
So why would that be you know what I mean?
Great point. But to Tony's point, what you're just mentioning, the whole Elaine monologue about the coat, that whole scene in Monks just never really sat with me. There was a lot of like just awkward silences.
Yeah.
And then George at the end was like, "Okay, that solves it for me." I don't know. It's just enough already. We get it. Buy him a new coat. Too much. One down.
Yeah, obviously. Yeah, I agree. I just kind of brought that up too. So, Andy, second thumbs down on this one.
Yeah, my second thumbs down is just this. It kind of leads me to it's kind of, the whole episode is kind of a stretch. You know what I mean by that? Like you can tell they're really reaching at this point. Like the European carryall this is my major thumbs down. The European carryall is a thing that Jerry would have a problem with earlier in the show. You know what I mean?
Like the ponytail.
Exactly.
Come on, who has a ponytail?
So,
like Mimbo. Yeah, good point. That's a good point.
I don't think that. I think he would have been a money clip guy once he got rid of the wallet, because it was very funny to start out, making fun of George's gargantuan wallet. That's a very Jerry nitpicky thing. Like it lends to his personality. But I just don't see him ever wearing the European carryall because obviously they make the joke, looks like a purse. But that is, to me, that goes so against Jerry's character in the whole show.
Yeah, valid point. I believe he's doing it for a chick, though, right? Is that where it all kind of stems from?
Yeah, I guess you could justify it that way.
That's where he's probably thinking. But I get your point. Is he would never? Because is that the same episode where he says? Might not be, where the girl goes, "Let's go dancing." I know he's like, "It's so stupid." He says.
So it was. I had that. I had those. Yeah. I wrote down a few lines for most of my thumbs
great
up.
Jerry line. Yeah.
You never go dancing? No, because it's so stupid.
Right. So, and to that point, what's he doing with the carry-on?
I guess you're right.
Thing.
I guess
this is so stupid. He should say to her, but he still has it.
Right. She's got the key ring. So I guess because of all her stuff, it makes a little more sense. All right, I'll give you that one. But
no, I think it's a great down.
It did work, and I guess it does work well once you put the whole fur coat plot in and put it all on Jerry. But that was my second thumbs down.
I like it. O'Hara, did you give your second one? Now we need, right?
No, I think you just convinced Fiori this episode's an A now. But
no, I don't know about that.
Yeah, exactly.
But I think, Andy, what you're saying is thematically, it was just there's too much going on. A little stretched it. Yeah. So for me, just specifics like the whole wallet bit. I mean, we've seen George for years. We've never seen a big wallet before, right? The balancing with the napkins. I mean, the hard candy. By the way, the hard candy joke twice. We got it with George on his hard candy in there. I never laugh at that. And then when Elaine pushes Kramer, and he references the hard candy again. I don't know. Maybe that's it kind of feels like an inside joke, but there should be
like it's a callbacky show throughout its history. So I just felt like that was an easy one for the writers to do there, but that's, I think to your point, Chris, is characteristic of season 9.
Yeah, the whole sweet and low in the wallet, him stopping to get the guitar lessons,
first lesson free.
yeah, exactly. I don't know. I do
always laugh though at the $5 off any Orlando area. That still makes me laugh for some reason, just because the bizarre day, you're never going to be be there.
But he did laugh, right? And my brother always had a 10% Myrtle Beach card similar, so I get it. I always laugh at that one. So, but George, for the most part, the wallet stuff down.
Yeah.
Yep. All right, I'm very curious about this because you guys have made arguments on both sides of this. I mean, even I'm curious to see where these grades land. So, Andy, you're great on this one.
I'm going to give this one a C+ because it's like we said, it's that cartoonish season 9, very much of everything's a stretch, like I mentioned, but it does have some great lines. It has some great some throwaway lines, just like, where'd you learn to climb like that? He just goes, the Pacific Northwest. So just like this weird part of Newman now that we don't know about. But then it's also, Newman, go down to 86th Street. They're giving fur coats away. And, Newman climbed over a tree. He can climb like a ring-tailed lemur. Always makes me laugh.
Love ring-tailed lemur.
There's some funny line, and the dancing line, because it's so stupid. So like, there's enough there to give it I wouldn't give it too bad a grade, but yeah, it's kind of it's a ridiculous. It's a silly, ridiculous episode.
I think C+ is right on the money in my opinion. Actually, Chris O'Hara, what do you got?
You guys are spot on. This is a C+. I mean, going in before I rewatched it, I thought I was going to grill it, just because season 9, and, George was, and usually George, our favorite character of all time. And when he does it, when he's the worst in the episode, you get concerned. But I think to your point, Andy, the Joe Mayo, Silvio, they really elevated the episode. Yeah. For a season 9. Let's be careful.
Right.
But it's it's a solid C+. It's not a top 100 episode, but not a bottom 20. Let's put it that way.
I like it.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Both of you guys. I think that's where it kind of lands, right? I think when you're talking season 9, you're going to start around a C, and if it's got something to give it a kick up, it's going to get up a little bit, and a kick down will bring it, into those D levels. But I think this is solid C+. I agree with both of you. Cool.
That summarized my whole high school career. It was just good enough, not terrible, but not top 100 in the class,
not showing off,
but not the
showing it off, not lagging behind.
Exactly.
Steve,
is it Morristown High School, or is there a specific high school in Morristown?
There is Morristown High. I actually went to Seton Hall Prep in West Orange to play hockey. So,
there you go. All right, then Villanova, and the rest is history.
Absolutely.
It's true. Did you realize this? Jay Wright's favorite episode is the Susie.
Really? I didn't know Jay Wright was a fan.
Totally made that up.
There's no way I could love that man more, and then you almost just did it for me.
Well, I was trying to give you a brutal episode that he liked.
That is. I was going to go, not the Suze.
Andy, did you hit any of the fish shows over the summer, Atlantic City or any of those? Or?
I did go to a few. I didn't go to Atlantic City. I hated the venue so much last year.
I've heard bad things. To go.
Yeah. But I went to Hartford, and I went to one night of Jones Beach.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, had a fun time at those.
Nice. What's your? Here's a question for you on that one. What is your? The 4 fish main and the 4 main Seinfeld. If you want to use Larry, you can match them up. Who's who in this scenario?
All right. Well, I think Trey is obviously Jerry. He's kind of the leader of the group. He's maybe at sometimes not the strongest member of the band, but whereas Jerry is obviously not maybe the strongest actor as we know. So, but they also, both have that leadership kind of quality. So Trey, the lead guitarist, would be Jerry. This is going to be interesting here. I think you got to give Mike Gordon, the bass player, is probably Kramer,
Yeah.
Just because he's such an oddball and a weirdo, he seems like they would share traits.
Agree.
And I guess Fishman would be Costanza. Because Paige is not Costanza.
Right. It's kind of a process of elimination there, right?
Yeah. So, and I think they both have kind of a similar body shape.
Yeah.
But yeah, Fish is kind of a character. So I think John Fishman would be George. And then I guess, yeah, that leaves Paige and Elaine. Paige is kind of feminine too, you know? And he's got his great moments. And a lot of times Paige is my surprise favorite person in the band on any given night, and that also holds true for me and Elaine. I adore Julia Louis-Dreyfus so much, you know.
That was well done, dude. I think I agree with you on that too. It was interesting.
Great question.
Yeah, where it could get weird is if you make Trey Jerry, then it kind of trickles away exactly how you said it. It's really just if you don't think that, but you have to kind of think that, like you said. So
yeah,
love it.
Well, now speaking of Elaine, are you like little kicks Elaine, or do we like, Lloyd Braun cutesy Elaine?
Yeah, I love cutesy Elaine, but I also love when Elaine gets bossy. One of my favorite things about non-fat yogurt is the smells. It smells real bad. Like she almost a lot of times goes into 1920s newspaper tycoon voice, and Jerry just, it's enough with the smells.
Yeah,
but I like when Elaine will get kind of she gets mad with George's what do you call it, toupee, and she goes, I don't like this, is what I'm gonna do about it. When Elaine takes charge, that's sexy as fuck, man. When she gets who is the couple? What's the wait out? What are their names?
That's what I was just going to say. The wait out. She does that to Jerry, right? She's like, you do it. Yeah.
Get over there, too sweet, if you know what's good for you. All right, now fix me a drink.
Yeah.
I know what you were doing. Don't do it. I love when she takes
what's
charge.
The guy's name? Yeah. It's Beth and the guy. I forget the guy's name.
Beth and Arnie.
Beth and Arnie. Yeah. Yeah. And to your point, the two George ones is the one you mentioned with the toupee, and then the nip is a great one too. You want a Christmas card? Here's your Christmas card. Shoving George's face.
They're calling me Nip.
Yeah, that's a great one too.
It's so great.
Right, hot off the press, Andy. I know you're a big Yankees fan. Judge just hit 61. You're getting distracted.
Can I have it on mute in the other room, and I preempted this by saying I have the text messages here. I have to go do a podcast. I'm sure he'll hit it while I'm busy.
Right.
To my college buddies and to my best friend, Steve Brown. He just texted me, goes, oh man, I'm afraid to even tell you.
The good news is
I knew it was going to happen while I was busy.
You didn't have to hear Michael K, so it's on mute.
That's true. Good. That's true. I got it on TV so I can I can go back and watch in real time. But good, that's great, man. I went to the game. I went to one of the games on Friday, and nothing. Even though it was a great game, everybody's still disappointed they didn't see a historic home run. But I'm glad it's over.
He broke the record, whatever that is.
What record?
Right.
Exactly.
He 61 is tying Maris, which I obviously if you're a Yankees fan, that's still the real record to you.
Yeah,
good for him. That's great. He was feeling it, dude. I think he really was starting to get to him a little bit.
I agree. I think it's everything's built up nowadays so big that it's just like it's too much at some point. That's pretty funny. You just hit it.
It's a shame too that some Canadian's going to get like $1 million for this ball that he doesn't really probably give a shit. The stadium's half empty up in Toronto. They don't care.
So Andy, the shows in Seinfeld that have I guess you could probably best relate to, let's say, are like when Jerry's actually on the road, and if you will, doing stand-up, like in the movie. I wouldn't say on the road, but in New York, the movie, The Fire. Yeah. Those episodes, do those, I don't know, hit home a little more for you? Like, all right, again, this is in the 90s. Remember, he's trying to meet his friends for the movie, and he's got some gigs. Yeah, I'm sure it's kind of rings true to your life.
That one very much personifies a New York City comedian on like a Friday night, because he uses the real lingo. He's like, I got a spot here, and I got another spot at 11:50. So like, to to the non-informed stand-up comedian fan, spots are what we call, going to do a set downtown, wherever. We call them spots. I don't know. I have a spot here at the Comedy Cellar. I got a spot uptown in Stand Up New York. So that little bit of insider lingo is really cool to me. But yeah, the mixing up of the spot times and the running to different clubs, like that is so real. That rings true. And trying to get around. The other part is that Barry Diamond, he really nails the annoying comedian that you are just kind of stuck with so well. Like that came right out of the world of stand-up comedy. There's always that guy who's just trying to run bits by you and you're just putting up with him, but you don't want to be rude or mean, but you're just kind of like, I just got to share a cab with this guy, just trying to be nice. It's so perfectly done. That one really is the best exemplary piece of like how they tied in stand up, because when Jerry goes on the road, you never see him really deal with the other stand-up bullshit that you would find on the road, and it's really never a major plot point aside from maybe like the pilots in the audience. You know what I mean? Right. Or like maybe once or twice we saw him having like some travel hiccups, but like that one really rings true. Running around in the city doing spots, and like even though it was in the 90s, like. Yeah, sometimes you got a spot uptown. You try and hop in a cab to go all the way downtown. Like traffic's heavy. You're like, don't go through the park. Take Broadway. Right. Like that still exists. So that one's really hits home.
What about Toby? How would you handle Toby?
Jerry didn't. That was handled very poorly. You know what I mean? He just kind of. I mean, I guess for the show's sake, they cut away and you don't really see.
Seinfeld froze like a deer in headlights.
That was the quote. Yeah.
Yeah. You got to really just go after the person. That's what you have to do. Any comedian would really lay into that person. Really, somebody's booing and hissing you. You wouldn't just try and move on. You deal with it in the moment.
But in fairness, she's with Kramer. So it's like a date. So I don't know. Maybe
good point. Good point. Yeah. He kind of, gives it to Kramer. Afterwards, what the hell are you bringing her around for?
That's right.
She's brimming with energy. That's another great Elaine too. I know she's deranged.
That is a good Elaine line when she says that.
Deranged is such a word you don't hear too much.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned Buckles because they kind of with Banya, I think they saw what they had with Buckles and was like, let's have a recurring character who's Jerry's like. That kind of comedian friend who's always kind of annoying but there and like that sort of thing. Like Banya kind of rolls right into that pretty well, right? As far as
I was always curious,
Jerry and that whole thing.
Yeah, I mean, I was always very curious to know, and I wonder if it's ever been leaked, but I don't think so. In all my years of studying Seinfeld lore, if Kenny Banya was written after a real life comedian. I'm sure he's obviously I don't know, was it a one person or is he just the amalgamation of a bunch of annoying comedians that Jerry knew? But I mean, Banya, I also wonder if he was like a one-time character that just hit and played so well that they kept bringing back because he was always he was gold.
Right. From what we've gathered, a lot of these returning characters were never meant to be returning characters. So I would be surprised if Banya was meant to be. I think, to your point, I think he just hit, and then the writers picked up on it, and they would just write him back in to keep writing him back in. That seems to be the theme that we're finding when we talk to writers. But, I mean, I think... Yeah, it'd be interesting to know if it's a conglomeration, like you said, or a single person. But I'm sure Jerry has those people in his life.
Oh, for sure. I love when Banya agrees that cutting would be the wrong move in the soup Nazi line. I love little things like that where he goes, "I'm not letting you cut. If he catches us, we'll never get soup here again." And Banya goes, "All right." I love when they agree because they just go, "All right, that is the right decision. We're not going to cut so we can still get soup. We don't want to threaten not getting soup." I love it. Benny goes, "Fine, all right." He realizes his rational comes over.
Yeah,
Bannius is just he's one of those, like, you put him up there with Jack the Child. It's like he doesn't overtake it. He just, to your point, he just nails it right, and
nails it. Your fancy boy hand cream.
It's gold.
It's a great line, I Kramer. You fancy boy hand cream.
I mean, it's these guest stars just steal the show half the time. I mean, especially in the later years. That's why they brought back the Sue Ellen Mishkis, the
Buddy,
Jack Giles.
Banya.
Yeah, absolutely. Because you guys are right. I think, Chris, you said it before. The show, as obviously is so 4-person heavy. The little characters, even the one-timers, are so perfectly cast. Like, in that same, the Nancy Boy, the dry cleaners, like Murray and his wife. His wife, I think we see Murray twice, but we only see his wife in that. And, she's got Jerry's mother's fur coat, if I get that Seinfeld math right, and she's wearing it, and Jerry bursts in, and but then she's walking out of the dressing room, and Elaine went outside to get a better look in a normal mirror. But then Elaine just goes, "Hey, do you think you can fix this? You get salt out of this dress?" She goes, "Let me see." And like she just does it so. Let me see. She just jumps right back in her normal life as a dry cleaner's wife. She goes, "Yeah, let me take a look at it. Bring it in." It's like every casting. They rarely miss on casting. Rarely.
Yeah, and we spoke to the casting director, Mark Hirschfeld. And Jason Alexander, I read a recent article, like he gives credit, not full credit, but a lot of credit to the success of the show to Hirschfeld. Like the casting is phenomenal, from
so great.
The parents to stars like Bookman and Banya and beyond. And then some of those, we've spoken to many of them. Two of your favorites, I remember you spoke to us last time. Your two favorite Jerry girlfriends were the NYU girl.
Yep, Sharon.
And Angela, who,
I know. I always see you guys talk to those guys on Twitter. I go, why didn't you give your pal Andy a call? He would have loved those.
And man, they look phenomenal still to this day. So good calls.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, was it you guys who found out it was Sharon, the NYU reporter? Those were her jeans from home.
Yes.
And her daughter just still wears them around the house today. It's like, put those in a museum. Don't let your kid fucking wear them. Come on, what are we doing?
Yeah, we also got the scoop. They were hot and heavy on that couch, man. She went all in on that couch.
Oh, baby.
That was something else. Yeah, that's rocking and rolling with these guests. We're finding out information, man. Anything, any little tidbits we can gather,
Absolutely. No, you guys are great. It's so fun to watch.
But the consistent theme, we're always looking for dirt, but there really isn't any. It's
right.
It was a welcoming show. Everyone was positive, and there's a reason the guest stars shined is because they were so giving. Jerry was so giving. It starts at the top. So
absolutely
incredible stuff. But Andy, man, thanks for catching up. This has been awesome.
Please, the pleasure is legitimately, really, always all mine. Anytime.
Looking forward to the special.
Thank you.
Appreciate you being one our first 3-timer.
Let's what an honor. I'm going for the 5-timers club. That's my next milestone.
The SNL 5-timers club.
Yeah, exactly.
That's great.
Awesome.
We'll
thank you guys. Really, really a pleasure. Anytime.
Thanks, Andy.
Thanks, Andy.
Bye, guys.
Awesome, man. Thanks.
Cheers.